So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to lecture number 8 of history in this lecture series called Prelims Powerplay 2026. Through this lecture series, we will cover all current affairs that are relevant for your prelims examination. I mean all current affairs. But the added advantage is we will also cover the associated static portion as well. Because you know that static topics that have some connection with current affairs are extremely probable. Okay, they have a high probability of featuring in your prelims examination. We all know this. Therefore, we will not only cover all current affairs subject-wise, we will also cover the associated static topics as well. Now, make sure that you make this lecture series a part of your daily routine. Because if you will do so, then you just have to spend 1 hour every day from now till your prelims examination, and everything would be covered, everything would be revised, done and dusted. Don't wait for your revision till February, March, April. Don't take that long. Start your revision now. Now, this lecture series is extremely beneficial for you guys. But to get the real benefit of this lecture series, you have to follow these 4 crucial steps. Okay? Step 1 is very simple. Every day at 9 p.m., a lecture with respect to this lecture series would come. Be regular with the lecture. Don't keep lectures pending. Okay? Be regular and consistent. It's very important. Then step number 2 is, well, along with this lecture, we will provide you with detailed notes, which will contain some extra information as well as the information covered in the lectures. Memorize those notes. This step 2 is very important. Memorize those notes every day along with the lecture. Then naturally, you will have some doubts. Well, we will be enrolling you in our WhatsApp groups. Over there, you can ask your doubts anytime. Step number 3 is ask your doubts if you encounter them. Do ask them. Okay, don't keep them pending. Don't hesitate at all. We are here for you. And step number 4, which is the most important, most critical step. Along with this lecture series, you will also get a test series. Okay, which will contain an exhaustive list of tests, exhaustive list of MCQs. Be regular with the tests. Generally, students keep tests pending. Don't do that. Be regular and consistent with tests as well. Tests are the most critical. Okay, so follow these 4 crucial, essential steps. It's very important. Now, as far as step number 1 is concerned, you need not worry. The lectures would come on YouTube. But for step 2, for notes, for WhatsApp, for tests, you would have to register on our app or on our website. The links to both are given in the comment section below. So if you want to register for this lecture series, just click on the links given in the comment section below. And in case you're finding any difficulty with respect to registering for Prelims Powerplay, well, along with those links, there is also a number. In case there is any difficulty, just WhatsApp us on that number and we will take it forward from there. We will guide you through the entire process. Okay? All right. So do this, register for Prelims Powerplay and forget about worrying for your prelims examination. Your chances for clearing this prelims examination would be extremely high if you're consistent and regular with this lecture series. So make sure you do that. All right. Enough of the introduction. Let's straight away jump into the lecture. And our today's topic of discussion is democracy in ancient India. Now, this year, there have been so many current affairs, news items, so many news articles with respect to ancient democratic practices. But one news in particular was very important. And it basically talked about democratic practices during the Chola Empire, okay, in South India. So, Chola Empire, in their villages, followed a system called Kudavolai system. Now, that Kudavolai system is a very good example of democratic traditions, democratic transparency, democratic accountability, and decentralized administration. Now, these things were done way back. Therefore, it is important for us to understand because this topic dominated the news. Okay, there were so many news articles published with respect to Kudavolai system in the Chola kingdom. So many news articles. And because of that, there is a high probability that they can ask an MCQ or 2 in this year's prelims examination. So that is why this topic becomes extremely important. So pay close attention and let's begin. All right. So history lecture number 8, democracy in ancient India. Okay. And first we'll talk about why this topic, democracy in ancient India, was in the news. Okay. So why in the news? So Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Brihadeswara temple in Gangaikonda, Cholapuram, where he gave a very good speech. And in that speech, basically, he highlighted India's ancient democratic practices. You see, all over the world, well, democracy, people believe that democracy originated from Magna Carta, the document, the British document of the 13th century. Okay, says that this document laid the foundations of democracy in the entire world, because democracy, they say, okay, Westerners say, first came to Europe and then it spread out to the entire world because of European colonization. That is the theory. Okay, so Magna Carta is considered to be the foundational document of Western liberal democracies. But Prime Minister highlighted that even before Magna Carta, well, Indian ancients in India practiced democratic traditions, and we need to highlight those. Okay, now he particularly mentioned, because he was in Gangaikonda Cholapuram, the Chola territory, therefore he mentioned the Kudavolai system. Now the Kudavolai system, the details about Kudavolai system, I mean, how do we know, how do historians know about this ancient Kudavolai system? Because historians, archaeologists found an inscription on the temple walls of Kanchipuram. Okay, so it is called Uttar Merur inscription in Kanchipuram. In that inscription, this detailed decentralized administration called Kudavolai system in villages that were practiced in Chola villages has been given. That is how we know about Kudavolai system. Okay, and Prime Minister Modi basically highlighted this. Now, what was Kudavolai system? An electoral process that functioned more than 1,000 years ago, selecting village leaders. So it was not for the entire kingdom. Okay, it was for villages, decentralized administration through an elaborate pick of lots mechanism. Okay, now about this inscription. So spread across the walls of ancient Vaikuntha Perumal temple in Kanchipuram district's Uttar Merur, the inscription outlines a highly structured framework for local governance. Okay, so basically this Uttar Merur inscription in Kanchipuram talks about Kudavolai system. That's how we get all the knowledge about Kudavolai system, and that's the source of our pride also, cultural, ancient cultural pride, because we can safely say that we practiced democracy way before the Europeans did. Okay, so, well, as you can see, Prime Minister Modi was near Brihadeswara temple, okay, in Gangaikonda, Cholapuram. Now, to understand Kudavolai system, you need to understand certain facts about Chola Empire. Okay, so if we talk about Chola Empire and if we talk about the administrative structure of Chola Empire, well, you need to take a look at this Chola administration. So basically, the geographical division of Chola administration was like this. You need to know about this. Okay, for example, in today's times, we can safely say that India is divided into states. States are divided into divisions. Every division has districts. Then every district has subdivisions. Okay, and then there are villages or cities, right? We know about this geographical division. Similarly, there was this geographic administrative division during the Chola rule. Okay, how was it? So at the top was the imperial palace, the Chola Imperium. Let's call it Imperium, the Chola Empire. Okay, now the entire empire was divided into provinces which were called mandalams. Okay, all provinces were divided into sub-provinces like divisions, okay, which were called Valanadus or Kottams. All sub-provinces were divided into districts, nadus, and every district was divided into group of villages, like a group of 10 villages known as kurams, and then every kuram had villages. Villages were generally called urs, okay, and every village was governed by a village head, okay, and a village assembly, like their own parliament. We'll talk about this, we'll come to this. But you understand the division, the administrative geographic breakup of Chola administration, right? MCQs can be asked from this, so pay close attention, okay? The entire empire had provinces, generally 8 to 9 provinces. Then sub-provinces, districts, village groups, villages. Okay? Now, as far as the provinces are concerned, well, there where the administration was centralized, because provinces were ruled by viceroys. Okay, and these viceroys belong to royal households, princes, relatives of the king. Okay, his sons, his brothers, they were appointed viceroys of these provinces. Okay, so provinces typically 8 or 9 governed by viceroys who were royal princes. Mandalams often bore names derived from Chola king titles and origins. So the name of states, the name of provinces, well, it came from the king's titles, name, origin story. Okay, basically saying that the provinces on the whole were administered centrally. But below a province, up to the village level, in the village level, the administration was fairly decentralized. The center never interfered in this administration. Okay, everything, irrigation, revenue collection, all important tasks were taken care of locally. Okay. Now, the thing is, if we talk about village administration, okay, let's talk about this village administration. So casteism was there back then. Okay. So all the Brahman villages had a village assembly called Sabha. Okay. So all the Brahman villages, well, the village assembly was called Sabha, and non-Brahman villages, the village assembly was called Ur. So all villages were either ruled by Sabha, which was a village assembly, or Ur, again a village assembly. And village assembly basically had certain members, right? So that was the case. And those members were elected. Clear? So let's suppose if we are talking about a Brahman village, then Sabha, the village assembly, had 30 members, and they would decide everything with respect to that village. Yes? Now, if we talk about this Kudavulai system, this Kudavulai system is explained in the Uttarmerur inscription in Kanchipuram, and this Kudavulai system, as per historical evidence, was followed in Sabhas. Okay, maybe it was followed in Ur also, but we have no evidence, proper evidence. This Uttarmerur inscription talks about village administration in Sabhas, Brahman villages, and that administration was called Kudavulai system. I'll tell you how this name originated. Okay, so let's talk about Kudavulai system. Okay, so Kudavulai system, how the administration of the village would be there. Okay, so villages, the entire one village was divided into 30 wards. Okay, each ward was called Kudumbu. Okay, now in every ward there would be elections of sorts. Clear? In every ward. So all the eligible candidates would write their names on palm leaves. Okay, palm leaves. So they would write their names on palm leaves. This is known as volai, palm leaves, and they would put their names written on palm leaves in a pot called kuda. Clear? So every ward will have elections. Every ward will have these elections of sorts. Okay, so eligible candidates' names were written on palm leaves, volai, placed in a pot called kuda in every ward. Okay, then that entire pot was shuffled, properly shuffled. Okay, and a young boy was chosen in that ward, and he was chosen based on his transparency, honesty. That young boy would go to the pot and would shuffle it again and then pick a name. Okay, in attendance of, or basically in the presence of, the village priest, so that there is no problems. Okay, and in presence of everyone, in that ward, that young boy would go, shake the pot, and then pick a name. Okay, shuffled and drawn by a neutral young boy in public view, full public gathering before temple priests for transparency. Simple. Okay, and the name picked by that boy, that would be elected from that ward. Okay, similarly there are 30 wards, so from every ward a member would be selected through this process. It's not technically elections, not elections like we are used to, votes, yet it was fairly transparent and accountable and fairly democratic also. I'll tell you how. Okay, it was not proper vote like election, but kind of democratic. Okay, so shuffle drawn by a neutral young boy in public view before temple priest for transparency. Okay, so from every ward, one representative would be chosen through this Kudavulai system. So 30 members would be selected. Okay, then selected members were assigned to specialized committees. Okay, so for example, there was irrigation committee, cleanliness committee, okay, tank irrigation committee, annual committee. Then there was this budget committee. So budget committee will have 8 members. Tank irrigation committee will have 4 members. So all these 30 members were assigned to different committees. Okay, which were called variums, specialized committees, responsible for different aspects of village administration. And this entire system is known as Kudavulai system. But this system, whatever we have just discussed, the genius of Chola administration was not in this, whatever we have discussed. Okay, the genius is in qualifications, disqualifications of these elected people. Okay, members, qualifications, disqualifications, term, all these things. That brings in transparency and accountability, which is absent even today. Okay, so this is how a Kudavulai system looks. This is the village boy in presence of everyone. He picks a name. Now, eligibility of candidates. This is where, well, transparency and accountability reaches its peak. Okay. Well, only a selected group of people were eligible to stand for these elections. Okay. Candidates aged between 35 to 70, owning at least 1 by 4 to 1 valley, or basically up to 6 acres of land. So only land owning people were allowed, of tax paying land, and a house on the owned site. So only landed people were allowed to stand for elections. Okay. Then another qualification was, remember, we are talking about Brahman villages, we are talking about Sabha. So knowledgeable in Vedas, mantras, bhashyas, with teaching experience and of virtuous character. Village people would tell that whether this person has a virtuous character or not. Okay. Now, the disqualification list was fairly long. Defaulters, criminals, thieves, drunkards, those guilty of incest or major sins, or prior committee members without audits. So, people who are accused of these crimes, convicted of these crimes, they cannot fight elections. People who are charged with misbehavior during their previous term as a committee member, if they did some financial fraud while being member of a sabha, well, they are disqualified forever. This is not in today's India, okay, but it was back then. Plus, the thing is, every such election or every elected member had a term of 1 year. And the best part is, there was a 3-year cooling off period. For example, I'm elected this year, then for next 3 years, I cannot stand for elections. Okay, so that I am not entrenched in power. This cooling off period was there to ensure transparency and accountability. So this was the proper system. Now, the key features of this system was, well, decentralized administration. The system provided substantial autonomy for local governments, allowing villages to manage their own revenue, irrigation, justice system, everything. So there was decentralization. Then accountability. Strict rules on eligibility, a 1-year term limit, 3-year cooling off period before re-election, ensured a degree of rotation, everyone gets a chance, and accountability. Misconduct could lead to immediate removal. Okay? But yes, we have said so many good things about this system. We have said so many good things about how democratic this system is. But there were a few limitations also, which makes this system a little bit undemocratic. What were those limitations? The system has been noted by some historians as being restrictive. Only a certain group of land-owning Brahmins were allowed to participate in these sabhas. Okay? After all, everyone in that village were Brahmins, those were Brahmin villages, but nonetheless, only land-owning and a particular category of land-owning people. Plus, they should be teachers, knowledgeable in Vedas, mantras, everything. Only these people were allowed. So not anyone can stand for election. So it was undemocratic in that regard. Okay? Now let's address this question, very important. Can we really call Kudavolai system as elections, system of elections? Well, it was not technically elections, okay? The kind of elections we are used to, okay? We are used to votes. You vote and the candidate who gets maximum votes, well, wins. It was not that kind of election system, but it was basically a kind of lucky draw. Okay? But all the other rules surrounding Kudavolai system, like who can write their name as on the palm leaves, okay, qualification, disqualification, term limit, cooling off period, all these things ensured that everyone in that village who fulfills that eligibility criteria gets a chance once in their lifetime to be a part of village assembly. So in that regard, it was democratic. Okay, because basically if you're elected once, you can't be elected again, someone else will get a chance. So through that system, basically everyone in that village who was a landowning person would get a chance. So in that regard, it was democratic, but it was not technically elections. It was basically lucky draw. The boy would choose a name from that shuffled pot, and whichever person's name comes, that would be selected. So in that regard, well, this system was not technically electoral democracy, but it was fairly democratic. And that is why it was praised by Prime Minister Modi, saying that, well, we are older than Magna Carta itself. Okay, so the Europeans, the Westerners, shouldn't teach us. We have a rich legacy, rich tradition of democracy. Democracy belongs to India. It's not that democracy belongs to Europe and it was imported by India. No, democracy belongs to India. Okay. Plus, there are other examples of democratic traditions. Okay. These are mentioned in your notes in detail. Okay. So go through that. Remember, I told you that your notes contain some extra information as well as the information discussed in the lecture. Memorize the notes. It's very important. Any MCQ can come from any word mentioned in your notes. So take your notes seriously. Okay. Some other examples, historical examples from ancient India that talk about democratic traditions. Well, various Vedic republics, okay? Sabha, Samiti, Ganrajya, Ganasangha mentioned in Vedic republics. Then Mauryan village administration was like Cholas only. Then Buddhist and Jain Sanghas. The administration of Buddhist Sanghas was fairly democratic. And then there is Chola Kudabalai. So these are some of the other examples of democracy in ancient India that are given in your notes. Take a look at these topics in your notes also. Okay? All right. On that note, we would be concluding this lecture. Okay. So on that note, I'll be signing off. Now, I hope you understood each and everything with respect to this lecture. And I know that this lecture has added significant value to your preparation. But it will add more value if you're consistent and regular with this lecture series and you memorize the notes. Please do not forget to memorize the notes, ask your doubts, and be regular with the test. Follow these 4 golden steps. Register for Prelims Powerplay now. All right then. That would be all from my side, guys. I shall see you next time with another topic in this lecture series called Prelims Powerplay. Thank you, everyone.